folks, welcome back. Today we are going to have some unfiltered real talk about the state of the Pokemon hobby and the condition of the Pokemon market and where I see it going forward from here. Now, I am fresh off Dallas-Fort Worth Collecticon this weekend. It was a pleasure meeting so many of you there. Had a great time. We're going to talk about a lot of my experiences in this video. And the title and thumbnail are not clickbait. I did sell out of my Pokemon investments, at least some of them. We're going to talk about that and why I did. And yeah, I'm just going to give you my overall take of what the heck's going on. So let's start with the social media sphere. Guys, this is all bullshit. This is nonsense. All right? Judging from everyone and everything I took in at this event, this is all fairy dust. All right? Here's the problem with the Pokemon market, business, finance, investing, drama space of this hobby. It is roughly the same 10 to 50,000 people going around watching all the videos, commenting on all the videos, a part of all the Discord groups, a part of all the Facebook groups, and a part of all the Reddit forums. That's basically the people watching all the videos and are most active in all the comments sections and all the groups. And everyone else outside of that little bubble of 10 to 50,000 people, you know, they'll watch videos here and there. You know, they're buying on these groups. They're active maybe once or twice here or there, but they're not day-to-day engaged. And so the day-to-day engagement and all the people that really put a lot of weight on this gives you a very warped view of everything. And so what happens is, first of all, it's the same content creators making the same type of content day in and day out every single day. We're all chasing views. We're all chasing clicks. We're all chasing engagements. Sure, there are new people popping up every single day, but they're basically some sort of clone of somebody that's already here, talking about the news, the market, the drama, being bullish, being bearish, whatever it may be, running a business. And everyone's basically saying a lot of the same stuff, right? You go to one side of the hobby, the YouTube, sphere, and you're going to hear all about how, how good the market is, how, how investing works, how people are running successful businesses, how you can do it too, all those good things. You're going to go to the other side of things. You're going to hear about how everything's too expensive, the hobby sucks, everything's going to crash, Armageddon's on the way, and all that type of stuff. You're going to go to the drama channels just to hear about, kind of dogpile on people that did scummy things, kind of dogpile on people that you don't like and the content creators talking bad about. You're going to go to the market channels to hear about what's going on in the hobby. You're going to give your takes on, if you agree or disagree on what's happening and all that stuff. And it's the same people leaving the same comments, bickering back and forth on every video. Do you ever notice that? Go look at it. You'll realize it's all the same accounts, right? They come to channels like mine and they'll either, just berate me with insults or they'll praise me. And then they'll go to the other side of things and the same people are going to berate or praise the other side of people. And it's just the same, kind of trade of engagement back and forth. And then when they get tired of going back and forth in the YouTube comments, they transfer that to the Discord groups and the Reddit forums and everywhere else. And what you need to realize is this is a small microcosm of the hobby. Because when you kind of remove yourself from this world and actually go in person to events, it tells a very different story. The hobby is bigger than a YouTube creator, than the comment section, than a TCG player chart, than an eBay auction. All right? And that's where we're going to start with the Collecticon. So, first and foremost, I got to shout out my friend Will, Mr. Dr. Applesauce. Thank you so much for getting us into the event so we did not have to wait in that multiple miles long line. It had to be, I don't even want to know. Probably would have took hours to get in. Luckily, Will hooked us up and got us in the event. Appreciate you, man. But I was able to walk around the event when kind of things were still getting set up and vendors were getting ready. And I talked to a lot of the vendors, and a lot of which had no idea who I was, which, blow to the ego, but I'll survive. No, but they don't know a lot about the social media side. They don't know all the creators that, I know that they live in a different world, right? And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, right? They're not, up to date with all the latest hobby news on what went up, what went down, things are crashing, things are going to the moon, all this stuff, right? They're running a business. A lot of the people there, they vend full time every single weekend, right? If it's not a Collecticon, it's a local show, it's a regional show, it's something, okay? Or they run card shops full time. And they didn't seem too concerned about anything. That's the first thing I really picked up on everyone. And I talked to people with a single table all the way up to people who were managing a full section. All the prices were still 100% up to maybe 110, 120% of market. And they said they hadn't been having a problem moving things in the past, weeks, months. And, the event picked up, people started to flow in, got crowded. And I was talking to, regular people walking around. And the funny thing is, no one talked to me about the market. None of the customers had a thing to say about price points. All they could talk about was what they were looking for. I'm trying to complete this master set. I'm a Gengar collector. I'm trying to, find this card. I'm trying to find this card in this grade. I'm looking for this sealed item. I'm trying, whatever they were trying to do. It was all people who were just trying to enjoy their hobby and collect. I didn't come across one person saying, well, I'm trying to buy this card because I think this is going to move next on TCG Player charts, or I'm trying to sell this because it seems like this one's crashing on TCG Player. No one was talking about that stupid stuff. Nobody. Not a single human being at that event, at least that I talked to, gave a crap about what the chart was doing this week or this month. Oh. They're just hobbyists, guys. That's what drives this hobby. Hobbyists, collectors, consumers. Phantasmal Flames is coming out. Phantasmal Flames was at this event. I talked to one of the vendors who had Phantasmal Flames. He started out listing it at $300 at the beginning of the day on Saturday. By the time I talked to him, it was $350. I said, are people buying it at this price? He said, yeah, I started out at $300. It was selling too fast and I didn't have that much, so I raised it to $320. It kept selling fast, so I raised it to $340. It was still selling pretty heavy volume, so I put it at $350, and now it's still selling, but not as fast. The Phantasmal Flames bundles were selling at $75, like water, flowing like water from the booths. ETBs, 100 plus, everything Phantasmal Flames was moving. Now here's the kicker. Was everyone just buying it to put on their shelves? To lock in their basements and their storage units as investments? No, they had this big kind of auditorium area filled with tables. And the amount of Phantasmal Flames packs that were being ripped by all the people who had bought it rivaled some of the biggest ripping ships in the hobby. There were packs of Phantasmal Flames flowing onto the floors. They were opening the set. They were enjoying the cards. Didn't hear a single person saying, oh man, I lost money. I didn't get the EV of the box. I didn't pull the Charizard. Everything sucks. Life sucks. I wasted money. No. They were enjoying the cards. They were enjoying the chase. They were having fun. They were putting the cards into binders, completing sets. A very far cry from what people would have you believe in the online sphere. Now, let's get to me selling. So first off, is the GameStop/PSA buyer rumor a thing? It is. I talked to many vendors who were wiped out by a buyer. They didn't know if it was PSA or GameStop. They believed to be at one of them. I think they're working in tandem. I'm not 100% sure. I did not talk to a specific person from GameStop or PSA that, admitted they were buying. So it's all, obviously just conjecture at this point. I can't prove any of it. But what I can prove is I walked up to multiple vendors and they basically said that they got cleaned out by a buyer that was paying 90+% for all of their slabs that were under $200. So it seems like they weren't buying anymore of the high-end slabs, but they were buying anything $200 or less, and they didn't have a they didn't have a ceiling. I mean, vendors said they basically sold them everything they had at those price points or under. I mean, clean them out. And so it was a thing. There were people walking around, from unnamed companies that were buying as much as they possibly could. They had no ceiling. I sold mine. I did sell slabs. I did not sell any sealed, but I sold pretty much all of my slabs. And, there was people paying anywhere from 80 all the way up to 90%. Yes, there were vendors set up paying 90% cash for certain slabs. If they were the top tier hits, the top tier Pokemon of what they were looking for, they would pay you out 90% cash. A lot of people were paying out 85% cash for slabs. Nobody was worried about a market collapse or a market crash. Now, the people I was talking with, they were basically middlemen. They bought out anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million in slabs a show, and they would immediately sell them to repackers, streamers, etc., and made a very small margin. And that was their whole business model, is they just moved infinite volume for very small margins again and again and again. I even talked with Zach, Gem Mint Pokemon. A lot of you know Gem Mint, been in the hobby forever, one of the true OGs. His business model, from what it sounded like, I talked to him for a little bit, not an entirely long time, but we got to talking, and seems like his business model these days is set up similar. It seems like he does a lot of B2B, business to business now, where he buys out he buys out collections or buys out large lots, breaks them down and sells off to whether it be streamers or other businesses, and kind of leaves some meat on the bone for them, makes his small margin, and just does it again and again and again. It reduces risks. He's not selling to the general public. He's not shipping a million shipments to all kind of different random people on the internet, and so it makes sense for him. It's kind of like we can all eat type thing, and everyone wins. And so it seems like a lot of people are kind of taking that model, especially those that are kind of bigger in the hobby, have large capital, and have connections. And so I did sell out a good portion of my slabs. And it was for a couple of reasons. One, I'm no longer running my rip and ship random slab nights anymore. We do sealed nights because they just work better. People prefer it. So I no longer had a need for a lot of the slabs I had bought out from collections. Two, everyone knows I'm trying to expand the business. We are already on eBay Live. I'm gonna try to get streamers streaming on there. I've got accepted in the TikTok, all that. So I'm thinking about going into the TikTok route as well. And so it's all about, I'm trying to expand to have more live streamers. And to do that, I'm going to need more capital to get everyone their packs to rip. And I'm contrary to what some people believe, I don't have infinite money, right? And the last thing I'm going to do is sell off my sealed. And so the best thing for me to sell is the slabs. Everyone knows slabs for me have always been short-term plays. I've never held slabs long-term as investments. And so it made the most sense for me to sell off slabs to then put that into other things. So that's what I did there. No, it's not clickbait. I did sell off a good portion of my slabs at Collecticon. And so that's what I did. That's why I did it. As far as sealed goes, no, I'm still not selling any of my sealed. I still do have sealed that I bought with the intention of selling. I may start to try to sell on my own site. I may wait till Probstein's site Snipe gets running and start to sell through them, or we'll talk about that more this week. But, I was still buying out a large amount of collections, and you guys know I buy collections and I sell collections, right? I don't keep everything I buy. Again, I don't have unlimited money, but every time I sell anything, people think I'm dumping or the market's crashing. But realistically, I buy collections at a percentage. I try to make up a percent margin on them. I sell them off, whether it be through myself or consignment services, or I sell them on streams, whatever I use them for. But didn't sell any sealed. So that's pretty much my experience. Every single person I talked to there, though, there was no fear, right? It was business as usual. Vendors weren't making deals. There was no deals, right? I mean, I couldn't really buy anything. I'm at kind of the point now where, I've grown a social media following, right? When I am looking for buyouts, people reach out to me with their collections to buy them. I put out notices on my Instagram, Discord, or my YouTube channel right here if I'm looking for certain things for streams, packs, or whatever. And, and I have certain, contacts I know in the hobby now where I buy through. So, I buy at a better deal than I can find at Collecticon. And even if I'm trying to bundle things together and pay cash or whatever I'm trying to do, the vendors simply are just not going to work with me in the way that others are going to work with me when they're selling out their collections. And so for me, I kind of struck out when it came to buying much for streams. I did get a few things, but not much. But overall, it was great. I got to see a lot of people. Obviously, shout out Jesse, shout out Fernando. Hands of a Hobbyist, and what's Fernando's handle these days? I don't know, but Fernando's handle on Twitch is Fernando Live. But they're friends of mine that I met early on in the hobby. They've been a part of my Patreon. They've they're my mods on my channel and all that. But it was nice to see them, hang out with them. Nice to see Will, Dr. Applesauce, and chill with him. Obviously saw Gem Mint. Met some other great creators that I'm actually going to have on the channel for live streams that are kind of outside of the norm that people you normally hear. Because I think just all of us going on each other's channels a million times, the people you've heard from a million times gets old. So I'm really trying to branch out and find new creators from different kind of walks of the hobby that you guys can hear from and hear their perspectives, because it's gonna be different than all this like tight-knit Pokemon market perspective and Pokemon investing perspective, which I think is good and it's valuable. But yeah, man, it was a great time. It was very telling of the market's still strong, the hobby's still strong. Things that are dropping right now are things that had ran up hundreds of %. A lot of people cite things like Lost Origin. Alex, Lost Origin $700 a box. It was $900. Well, it was $900 for a few sales at its very peak. It was realistically in the 800s, right? It's probably realistically down 20%, maybe 15%. But what people don't realize is Lost Origin was a couple $100 a year ago. And so something went up hundreds and hundreds of % and then corrected 20 of that %. Is that something to really freak out about, right? Paldea Evolved, Alex, it was 500. Well, there might have been a sale at 500. Really, realistically, it was in the 460s to 480s. That's where it kind of was kind of hanging out. And now it's down to, 400 a box. So it's down maybe, again, 15, 20%. Alex is crushing. Well, Paldea was like $200 a box a year ago, too, and still more than double. I don't know. And see, that's what you have to start thinking about. Phantasmal Flame still selling out. I think TCG Player right now, pre-release, it's actually turned. It's running back up now. It's running back up to like the 310 or more. And so it's very hard for me to get on board with this whole idea that everything's crashing when most everything's holding up relatively strong. Sales volume is still decent, and the price corrections are nothing more than 10 to 20% on items that have all ran up hundreds of %. And so judging from what I've experienced at Collecticon, judging from the people I talk to, judging from just my overall view of the market outside of what you read in the comments or the Discords or the Reddits or what all the talking heads on social media have to say, I think we're going to be all right, guys. I think the hobby's going to be just fine. I think a lot of the corrections are actually starting to stabilize. I think it is opening up a huge buying opportunity in a lot of these sets. And I think come next spring, a lot of people are going to be unhappy that they bought into the rhetoric that everything's crashing and they didn't pick up some of the deals that are available right now. Just looking at the overall, I would say, like, economic landscape, there's a lot of things that are happening right now, and no one knows if they're going to be good or bad. There's people that believe, both sides, right? There's talks of a 50-year mortgage. There's talks of a 50-year mortgage. Now, from a long-term financial standpoint, it's a terrible idea. You're going to pay exponentially more in interest, but you're going to have a lower house payment. More people are going to be able to get in a house. May not be the best financial situation, but more people are going to be able to afford a house. What that means long-term, I don't know. I don't have an opinion. I'm just telling you what's going on. There's talks of a $2,000 stimulus check from President Trump, dispersing out all of the income from the tariffs. Is that going to come to fruition? I don't know. But $2,000 extra in people's pockets, and then tax refund season coming up in spring, I don't know. Could incite more spending from all of the consumers, because we live in a consumer culture. The rates are coming down. Jerome Powell continues to lower rates. If rates continue to lower through this year and into next year, you're going to have people refinancing their homes. They're going to be rolling in any debt they accumulated on credit cards, on other spending, into their homes, right? Which is going to lower their monthly bills. Is it the best financial decision long term? Of course not. But if it gets your monthly bills down, people have that spending power again. People have their credit cards at zero again. That's what happens when rates come down, guys. People are going to refinance. Are they going to refinance into a 50-year mortgage if that becomes a thing? Maybe. Maybe it gets even lower payment. All I'm saying is some of these things, in my opinion, could be detrimental long term. But in the short term, a lot of this stuff that's happening right now could actually propel things even higher. Just going to throw it out there. 50-year mortgages, stimulus checks from tariffs, refinances from lower rates. The crypto markets, they're kind of volatile, but Bitcoin seems to be holding that $100 price pretty steadily. It's rising again now, I think, today on Monday. The stock markets, it's choppy, but it's definitely not down or crashing. It's still near its all-time highs, and companies still seem to be doing well. Now you could say, well, yeah, but they're doing a bunch of layoffs to offset their, what's going on. So their profits are still showing well because they're laying people off. Yep, it's not a good thing. Again, I think a lot of these things are going to come to roost eventually, but 6 months, a year, it's hard for me to see a lot of things that are really going to be detrimental to this hobby in 6 months to a year's time. So that's my take on things, guys. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And also, as always, I'm one guy. I am one guy giving my take on YouTube about the Pokemon hobby. It is in no way indicative of how everyone feels. You don't have to agree with it. And I always put my money where my mouth is. And I operate in this hobby based on my beliefs, not what everyone else thinks. And I'm going to continue to do that going forward. And, if it all works out, we can come back and say Alex was right. If it all goes to hell, we can come back and say, that guy's a freaking idiot. He lost it all. What an idiot. And that's fine. We can do that. But I'm going to keep putting it out there and being honest. And we'll see how it all comes to pass. So hopefully you guys are all ready for a fantastic week. All of you guys know Phantasmal Flames releases this week. I will have it on stream tonight, Monday night. It is November 10th. If anyone wants to stop by and say what's up and watch some Phantasmal Flames, watch the Charizards get pulled, feel free to stop by. And it'll be right here on YouTube, 7 p.m. Central Time. So I'll see you guys all there for that. And thanks for watching as always, guys. I'm out.